Inside your own body, a silent war is being waged. It is a conflict where there are no external invaders, no viruses to blame, and no environmental toxins to filter out. Instead, your own immune system, the very shield designed to protect your life, identifies the growing life inside you as a mortal threat. This is not a biological mistake or a random illness. It is a fundamental rejection. For a specific group of people, the womb, which should be the safest sanctuary on Earth, transforms into a battlefield. The mother's body produces targeted antibodies, microscopic soldiers sent to hunt down and destroy the blood cells of her own child. In the world of medicine, this is known as Rh incompatibility, but in the realm of evolutionary science, it is a paradox that defies the most basic laws of nature. Every living species on this planet is hardwired with a singular, driving purpose: to survive and reproduce. Evolution typically polishes this process over millions of years, smoothing out the rough edges to ensure the next generation thrives. Yet, in the human genome, there exists a glitch that seems to run counter to the survival of the species. It is a biological signature that suggests two different lineages are attempting to merge where they were never meant to coincide. While science has categorized the blood types and developed treatments to manage the symptoms, the central question remains unanswered in the shadows of our genetic history. Where did this 15% of the population actually come from? To understand the mystery, we have to look at the protein that defines the majority of the human race. The Rhesus, or Rh factor, is a specific protein found on the surface of red blood cells. If you possess this protein, you are Rh positive. This trait is a biological link to our past, shared with the Rhesus macaque and virtually every other primate known to science. It is the common thread that weaves us into the tapestry of Earth's evolutionary history. But for those who lack this protein, the Rh negative individuals, that thread is severed. On a purely physical level, they are human, but on a molecular level, they carry a blueprint that lacks the very marker that defines our primate lineage. If we all evolved from the same ancestors in the heart of Africa, why is there a significant portion of the population that appears to have no biological connection to those ancestors? In the natural world, a trait that causes a mother's body to reject and potentially kill her offspring is an evolutionary dead end. From a Darwinian perspective, such a characteristic should have been purged from the gene pool thousands of years ago through the cold logic of natural selection. Yet the Rh negative trait has not only survived, it has persisted as a stable, distinct part of the human genome. It clusters in specific regions and among specific peoples, suggesting that its origin is not a simple, random mutation. It feels less like a natural variation and more like a compatibility error between two different operating systems. When an Rh negative mother carries an Rh positive child, her body senses a foreign presence that it does not recognize as its own kind. Without the intervention of modern medicine, this internal conflict often ends in tragedy: anemia, jaundice, and fetal death. It is the only instance in nature where a mother's immune system systematically attacks her own young based purely on a protein mismatch. The search for the source of this anomaly leads us to a rugged corner of the world, the Pyrenees Mountains between France and Spain. Here, the Basque people represent one of the greatest anthropological mysteries in history. They possess the highest concentration of Rh negative blood on the planet. But the mystery of the Basque goes far deeper than their veins. Their language, Euskara, is a linguistic isolate. It bears no resemblance to any other language in Europe, Asia, or the world. While the rest of the continent was shaped by successive waves of migration and genetic blending, the Basque remained a biological and cultural island, preserved for millennia. They are the remnants of a population that existed before the dawn of modern history. If they are the original inhabitants of the land, then the question becomes even more unsettling. Who were the people they were originally distinct from? And why is their blood so fundamentally different from the rest of humanity? Beyond the clinical data, A strange pattern of physical and psychological traits begins to emerge among those who carry the Rh negative factor. While these markers are not universal, they appear with a frequency that is difficult to ignore. Many report a baseline body temperature that is lower than the human average, as if their internal furnace is tuned to a different frequency. They often have lower blood pressure, an extra vertebra in the spinal column, and a heightened sensitivity to heat and sunlight. Physically, there is a recurring prevalence of piercing blue, green, or hazel eyes, and hair that carries a reddish tint. But it is the psychological profile that is perhaps the most haunting. There is a persistent sense of not belonging, a feeling of being a watcher or an observer in a world they are not fully a part of. Many report high levels of intuition and a strange, unexplainable detachment from the traditional narratives of society. If this trait did not emerge from our primate ancestors, then we must look into the deep shadows of prehistory for its origin. Roughly 35,000 to 50,000 years ago, the human story took a sudden, unexplained turn. Archaeologists call it the Great Leap Forward. In a geological heartbeat, humans transitioned from simple survival to the creation of complex art, sophisticated tools, and organized social structures. While mainstream science attributes this to a sudden cognitive mutation, the Rh negative factor suggests a more complex possibility. There is a hypothesis that has circulated in the fringes of genetics for decades. The idea that the human genome was intentionally altered or hybridized. Ancient texts from nearly every corner of the globe speak of a time when the world was shared with the Watchers, or those who descended. The Sumerian tablets, the oldest written records of humanity, detail the Anunnaki, beings who arrived from beyond and modified the local inhabitants for a specific purpose. The Book of Enoch describes celestial entities who crossed the veil and left behind a legacy that was neither entirely human nor entirely divine. While these accounts are often relegated to the realm of myth, the biological reality of Rh negative blood provides a physical anchor for these stories. If we are a blended species, the Rh negative factor might be the residual trace of that forgotten intervention, a ghost lineage that doesn't match the rest of the genetic program. We are taught to view the human family tree as a straight, ascending line, but modern genomic sequencing reveals a tangled web of interbreeding and mysterious additions. We know we carry the DNA of Neanderthals and Denisovans, but there are sections of our code that come from ancestors we have yet to name. The Rh negative factor acts as a biological signature, a piece of code that stands apart. In ancient cultures, blood was considered the carrier of the soul and the bridge between the physical and spiritual worlds. The term blue blood was used by royalty to denote a lineage that was set apart, believed to possess traits of leadership and intuition that separated them from the masses. While we use the term as a metaphor for wealth today, its origins are rooted in the belief of a distinct biological heritage, one that was perhaps being protected and preserved through the ages. This distinction becomes even more intriguing when we consider the relationship between blood and vibration. The study of somatics shows us how sound frequencies can organize matter into intricate geometric patterns. When a liquid, such as blood, is subjected to specific tones, it responds by forming structures that reflect the mathematical harmony of the universe. Some researchers suggest that different blood types may actually resonate with different environmental frequencies. If the Rh positive blood is tuned to the natural terrestrial rhythms of the Earth, could the Rh negative blood be responding to a different broadcast? Perhaps the sensitivity reported by Rh negative individuals is not a psychological quirk, but a physiological reaction to the frequencies that surround us, an internal dissonance caused by a world that is vibrating at a pitch their blood was never meant to hear. Consider the implications of a bloodline that defies its own environment. In no other species do we see this kind of internal reproductive war. A horse and a donkey can produce a mule, and though the offspring is sterile, the mother's body does not identify the fetus as a toxic invader. Why is the human female the only creature that requires medical intervention to prevent her body from killing its own child based on a protein mismatch? This conflict suggests a fundamental glitch that occurs only when these two specific blood types meet. If the Rh positive line is the original, terrestrial design, then the Rh negative line represents something that entered the timeline from the outside. There is a certain darkness in this realization. It suggests that our history is not just one of survival and adaptation, but perhaps one of hybridization and loss of memory. If 15% of us carry the mark of an unknown origin, it shatters the idea of a monolithic human identity. It speaks of a deep-seated division that stretches back to the very dawn of our consciousness. Those with Rh negative blood often describe a strange pull toward the unknown, as if their DNA carries a latent memory of a time when the world was different. They are the seekers and the questioners, the ones who feel the weight of a history that hasn't been fully told. The concept of a ghost lineage is no longer just a theory. Geneticists have confirmed that modern humans possess segments of DNA that do not originate from any known hominid group. These are placeholders in our code, segments of high-functioning information that appear out of nowhere. While science remains cautious about naming the source of this ghost DNA, the Rh negative factor stands as the most prominent candidate for a visible manifestation of this mystery. It is the part of the program that refuses to sync, the legacy of a lineage that walked a different path before intersecting with our own. As we look toward the future, the rapid advancement of genetic science will likely uncover the source of this anomaly. We may find a logical, earthly explanation that finally puts the mystery to rest, perhaps a resistance to an ancient, forgotten parasite or a fluke of regional isolation. But we may also find that the further we dig, the more the traditional narrative crumbles. We are entering an era where we can now edit our own genetic code, effectively becoming the architects of our own evolution. In doing so, we are reaching the point where we might finally understand the Watchers of our past, because we are becoming them. The Rh negative mystery remains one of the great unsolved enigmas of our species. It is a puzzle piece that simply refuses to fit into the picture we have painted of ourselves. Whether it is a relic of an ancient civilization, a mark of a forgotten ancestor, or a sign of an intervention from beyond, it serves as a cold reminder that we are still strangers to ourselves. We carry the secrets of our origins in our veins, circulating through our hearts every second of every day. Until we can fully map the shadows of our past, the 15% will remain a living testament to the unknown. In the silent war between the blood types, there is a story waiting to be told. A story of who we were, what we became, and the enigmatic forces that might still be observing our progress. The truth is not just hidden in the stars or buried in ancient ruins. It is flowing inside us, written in the very code that makes us human. We are a species with amnesia, and our blood is the only map we have left to find our way back home. We look into the mirror of our genome and see a reflection that is familiar, yet subtly, hauntingly foreign. We are the survivors of a forgotten history, and the mystery in our veins is the heartbeat of a truth we are only just beginning to remember.